Good evening and welcome to Thursday Night Live with Chef Brackman. Hello, welcome. How are you doing? I hope you have had a great week. It's the weekend for us here in Doha. So the topic for tonight is pregnancy and baby loss awareness. As some of you might know, I have had 3 devastating pregnancy losses. So this is a cause very close to my heart. And having this discussion on this day is not coincidental at all. As some of you might know, 9th of October to 15th of October annually is Baby Loss Awareness Week. Baby Loss Awareness Week started in the UK in 2002. This organization was started by a group of bereaved parents and some local charities. It has grown to become an internationally recognized organization, and BLAW, as it's called, Baby Loss Awareness Week, is now observed in about 100 countries worldwide. The aim of Baby Loss Awareness Week is to remember. So it's for remembrance of the babies that we have lost. It's for awareness and just to create, to break the silence and stigma around baby loss, stillborn and infant loss. And for advocacy, just to advocate for better support of bereaved families. So basically, it's threefold: remembrance, awareness, and advocacy. So I wish that I knew about BLAW in 2015 when I suffered from all my losses, because I came from a community where this kind of things, pregnancy and baby loss, is held with a lot of secrecy. So I could have benefited from reaching out to this organization and getting the support. So I am so happy that this exists for other people who may not be able to speak within their local church communities or their family or their local community, so they can go somewhere and unburden and get the support that they need. So check if there's any BLAW related gathering in your neighborhood. And I'm going to be talking about the full spectrum of baby loss and pregnancy loss, so that just to create awareness, so that we understand what the bereaved are really going through, so that this talk today is not just about people who have had loss, but also for the rest of us to learn how to better support people, what not to say to them, so that we just show more empathy and kindness to people who are going through a lot of things. So that's the aim. I didn't know about this BLAW until 9th of October 2020, the day after I had my triplets. So I had my boys 8th of October 2020, and I'm lying in the hospital trying to recover, and a friend of mine was observing BLAW. So she had the whole week from the 9th to the 15th of October, just recounting everything she had been through. It was so deeply touching. That year, it just felt ungrateful to have triplets and the next day turn around and be talking about all my losses. So I didn't join that year. But subsequent years, so the last 5 years, I have observed BLAW, and I know that they're making a positive impact in the world out there. So I'm just going to go over the types of baby loss and pregnancy loss that exist today that are covered under BLAW. Then I'm going to tell a few personal stories, just that we can bring it home and learn a lot today. So I see more people have joined, and I thank you for being here. So I hope that this is impactful for everybody, but it's a very sensitive topic. So if you start to feel overwhelmed, just feel free to drop out. And whenever you're feeling better, the replay will be shared, just so that you know that this can be heavy, especially if you're pregnant, if you've had a loss. I don't know which stage of grief everyone is in, just so that I put it out there so that you know that it's a very deep topic. So the spectrum covered under BLAW, and I'll be looking at 8 topics. The first one being the one that I'm very familiar with, called miscarriage, which is a word I really don't like at all, because miss just sounds like you did something wrong, like you mishandled it, or, that you carried it, but you miscarried it and you lost it. So it's a word that I personally do not like, and I prefer to use baby loss or pregnancy loss. But Originally, abortion was the word for it, from the Latin root abortus. But as the abortion rights for the elected abortion became more popular, the campaign for elective abortions, it started to model terms. So English went straight to miscarriage, just to make that distinction. But in Germany, when I was investigating my miscarriages in Germany, they still use abort and spontaneous aborts for spontaneous abortions, and habitual aborts for recurrent miscarriages. So sometimes we can move it. The change in language can also lead from going from clinical blame towards compassionate recognition of actually what is happening. And the term just reduces the guilt surrounding this word. So miscarriage is pregnancy loss before the 24th week of pregnancy. It's spontaneous. The pregnancy ends, and it can be for a host of reasons: chromosomal abnormalities, hormonal issues, structural problems, infections, immune-related issues. Parents lose a pregnancy, the baby they imagined, the future they planned. It's very painful, no matter whether it's just after they found out or it's very painful. So, and it is the most common form of baby loss, but the one that is most socially minimized, because people will look at you and say, oh, it was early, you will have another pregnancy, you will have another one. They have all kinds of. So we're going to learn today to stop minimizing the pain of others. People process grief differently. There's a whole spectrum. Sometimes it's not just the loss, but all that has happened before that loss. So the second one is ectopic pregnancy. This is where the pregnancy starts outside of the uterus, usually in the fallopian tube. And that pregnancy is not viable. And most times there has to be surgical intervention to end it. So the baby cannot survive. It's life-threatening for the mother. It requires urgent surgery most of the time. Parents face grief and trauma, and the mother might lose one fallopian tube. So there's also fear and worry about future fertility. And then the third one, molar pregnancy. This is a rare condition where it's abnormal tissue that is growing in the uterus instead of a normal pregnancy. So you will never find the yolk sac and the fetal pole, but a mass which looks more closer to the placenta is growing. Is a type of pregnancy that obviously cannot progress, so it has to be surgically removed. So you're now having a surgery, baby loss, trauma, and then stigma and fear that your next pregnancy might be molar. So it's also a very troubling situation. The fourth one is termination for medical reasons. So in this heartbreaking situation, you have been told that the baby has a severe or life-limiting condition, which means that child is most likely not to survive after birth, or will have very life-limiting situation, or that pregnancy is a threat to the mother. Like for the baby, it might be severe neural defects, poorly developing brain, no kidney was found. You know, there's a scan at 20 weeks where they check all the organs and confirm that they are the right shape and size and all of that. So at that point, they may tell the parents to terminate. Or for the mother, severe preeclampsia or eclampsia, cardiac or renal failure, severe hemorrhage, placental abruption. So there are all kinds of situations that is life-threatening for a mother. And then it comes down to choosing between saving the child or saving the mother. So it's a decision that is usually layered in shame. There's layers of grief. You love this baby, that you have to make a very difficult decision. There's that fear of judgment. There's silence. And a lot of people who have had to have a termination for medical reason usually never admit to it. So they will say they've had a miscarriage, a stillborn. So we need to remove this shame so that people can correctly discuss what they're feeling and heal and grow. And not so termination for medical reasons often has the medical, the moral, and the spiritual war going on, and is a very difficult situation. The fifth one is stillbirth. This is pregnancy loss after 24 weeks of pregnancy. So this can happen before or during birth. So because at 24 weeks, the baby is considered viable, because a lot of babies born at 24 weeks survive sometimes. So this can be caused by placental issues, infection, complications, or it can remain unexplained, which is even more annoying, that you don't know what it happened. So you have carried this pregnancy. Everybody knows you were pregnant, because 24 weeks, there are a lot of questions. You've made plans, and for some people, painfully, you're fighting for your life as well. So you're bleeding, you're fighting for your life. You don't have a living child, and then the milk comes in. So you're dealing with all that, and then there's milk but no baby to feed. So I'm just hoping that if I explain what has happened in each situation, we can weigh our words, we can choose our words, we can know when to just be quiet and just actively listening to people going through, and just supporting them in every other way, without going there and trying to suggest, oh, you can go again, you can do this, you're young, you're that. Let's just, oh, you're lucky, you lost only one of the twins and you gave birth to the twins, so that we can be more compassionate with our suggestions. The sixth one is neonatal death. So this is when the baby dies within the first 28 days of birth. So the baby has survived the birth, but within 28 days, they have died. And this may be due to prematurity, birth complications, infections, congenital conditions. Parents have experienced the joy, announced the birth, precious but heartbreaking memories, meeting baby, and then being devastated by loss. The seventh one on this spectrum is infant death, which is after 28 days of birth, but before the first year of life. And this is where sudden infant death falls in: illness, accidents, congenital issues. Parents have bonded and cared and built routines with this baby. It is shattering disruption to daily family life. And number 8, recurrent pregnancy loss. So this is, for some countries, 2 consecutive pregnancy losses. For some, 3. It needs to be 3 for them to diagnose it as recurrent pregnancy loss and start doing investigations. And this is something that I know all too well, because I had 3 recurrent pregnancy losses. So you have this cycle of hope and heartbreak. It could be due to genetic, hormonal, immune-related, structural, or unexplained. Each new pregnancy brings joy, shadowed by fear. In another life, sometime, I'm going to discuss pregnancy after a loss, so that we can also build sensitivity about what we say to people who are pregnant after a loss. So I'm going to start to tell you some personal stories, just so that we can, put things into perspective. So my first pregnancy was March 2015. And I was so happy. I was over the moon. And within 2 weeks of confirming that pregnancy, I lost it. So I had gone for my driving exam. I had road test that morning. And I was waiting for my turn. There were a few delays, but just before it became my turn to go and do my road test, I needed to pee. I went to the bathroom and realized that I was spotting. I called the clinic quickly. They said I should come by, but I went ahead and did the road test, which I failed very quickly because I was worried and my mind was really in a difficult place. So I drove to the clinic 30 minutes away from my house in Dubai, because the clinic was in Sharjah. I got there, they did the scan, they saw 2 sacs. They were normal shape and size, but they couldn't see a fetal pole or yolk sac, but it was kind of early. So they told me that I should just increase my progesterone and rest, that it's probably nothing. So I went back home. This was March 26th. It was a Thursday. So then Henry used to work in Iraq and come back every Thursday to Dubai to meet me. So towards mid-afternoon, I went to pee again, and these large lumps of tissue were falling. I was so confused. So I called them again. So they said I should come the next day to see what's going on. So I just waited at home in fear and confusion, and I just didn't know what to do. But the bleeding was getting worse. My husband came back. I was crying, I was praying, I was confused, but there was still disbelief because I couldn't believe it. Like it hadn't even come to my mind that I was losing my pregnancy. Then the next day we went to the clinic. They did the scan and the sacs were now deflated. So they asked me to stop my progesterone so that they will evacuate, and I'll go for a scan a week later. And if it wasn't complete, I will have to come in for an evacuation. And then that week was one of the roughest weeks in my life. And now when I look back in hindsight, I will always be grateful that I didn't have to go to work, that I could just stay at home and mourn. And I was even happy that my husband had to go back to Iraq for work. I was alone. I ate when I wanted. I just cried when I wanted. I didn't leave my house that week. I was a mess. And some people will say that I wasn't handling it well, try to talk me out, bring me out. Even I had a fight with my husband around that time because he had, in my pain, I also failed to recognize that he had also lost his children. But I guess the spectrum of our pain was different. Grief is different, even within the same marriage. So he had never really thought about children, but all of a sudden we're pregnant and he realized that he wanted this. So he was mourning that loss of something he never knew he wanted, but he has experienced it and he really, really wanted it. But for me, the magnitude of this loss was beyond just this loss. 10 years before that loss, I'd been diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and the doctors were not very informative about what was going on. So I had gone to Google. I had seen a wiki page. They said I had a risk of infertility, risk of miscarriages, blah, blah, blah. So I had been scared for years that I might never be pregnant. And then shortly after that, like after I found out and I was having fewer periods a year, the person I was dating at the time noticed that I didn't have a lot of periods. So he had asked me, what's going on? So I said, I do have PCOS. This is what the doctor said. He didn't say a lot, but he traveled to Lagos. Then he told his doctor friend. Then both of them called me to question me about the true nature of what was going on. So after this doctor finished questioning me, it is my opinion that maybe he advised him that I won't have children or something. But shortly after this conversation with this doctor, he broke up with me. But at the time, it hadn't even occurred to me because I still didn't think PCOS was a serious issue. But after I'd done ovulation induction, no pregnancy, and I had now started IVF, and I'd done this IVF, and I'd become pregnant. So this pregnancy was already winning of a verdict that I have been fighting for 10 years. So it wasn't just that maybe, I don't know, because I will not minimize the pain of others. Maybe if I'd never had PCOS and I got married and within a few months I was pregnant and I lost it, maybe it would not have been as devastating as me thinking for 10 years that I might not be able to get pregnant. And then I do IVF, I get pregnant against all odds, and I just lose it. So sometimes when people are mourning, it's not just for what has just happened, but layers of what has happened before that you don't know. The second miscarriage was May 2015. We were supposed to go to Spain for a reunion. And we had gone into the mall to see a movie and pick up some things. And just before that movie started, I'd gone to pee. And all hell had broken loose. At this stage, I was just numb. It was as if it was happening to someone else and I was watching. I didn't want to believe it. But my calm, when I think about it in hindsight, at the time, I was just thinking, I haven't done all the tests I told this man to do when I lost the first pregnancy. So I'll just go back, do all the tests, and they'll find out. And the next pregnancy, this will not happen. So I had a different mindset from the first one. So because I still believed that there was more to be done, I just sat through that movie, went home, packed my things, went to Spain, enjoyed myself with my friends, and came back ready to fight again. So the space between that second miscarriage and the next one, I went to the Dutch summer school in the Netherlands for 6 weeks. I took some culinary courses. I went to Lebanon. I did a bit of traveling. I just tried to take my mind off things, read books, just had different experiences. And then the third one, December of 2015, the same year, we had done every test or every test that the doctor agreed with. Like, I'd done a lot of research. I've come test after test, and we're done. And we're done pre-genetic screening to eliminate like chromosomal abnormalities. And then we ended up with 2 embryos, which they put in. So in my mind, this was it. Everything that wasn't done before has been done. So this pregnancy will stay. So imagine, and my mom came for that holiday, that December. My mom had come to Dubai with my grandmother, and she was praying, and she found something in the book of Tobit, something about fish gall and fish heart or something, that she burnt it, and she was praying, and she was asking all kinds of people to pray for me. And then the miscarriage started, 27th of December, 2015. I was just shocked, and I kept thinking, maybe it's time to find a surrogate. Maybe it's time to adopt, because I cannot handle this anymore. So each one I handled differently. And each time, like the first one, I didn't leave my house for a week. The next two, I was better, higher functioning. But it affects all of us differently. It does. Let me give you an example. Even if you think it's only women it affects. No, men and women. There was an instance that I had gone to a party with my husband. It was with his colleagues. And there was this guy. He was an annoying Dutch guy. And he was a bit alcoholic and could have a big mouth when he drinks. So I don't know what he had said to Henry, but Henry was already angry with him. But Henry was drinking as well. So at some point, this man walks over to me where I was staying and minding my business, and starts asking me why I can't get pregnant, if my husband can't get me pregnant, blah, blah, blah. So I'm standing there, shocked, angry, confused. And I know what I've been through. I think that was after the second miscarriage or so. While he was being stupid, before I could say Jack, this man leans over and kisses me. I don't know how quickly Henry crossed the room and descended on him. Next thing, the man is on the floor, and he just sitting on the floor smiling. And you can see that he had no fight in him. He was too drunk. He couldn't defend himself, and Henry was going to beat the crap out of him. So I had to stop him. I was shouting and trying to stop him before the colleagues could even understand what happened, because this is a work thing. It could blow up if you beat this guy anyhow, right? So I was now shouting at him to stop, and he was very angry. And there was information that I didn't have, which was what this man had said to my husband, right? I didn't know at the point that I was yelling at my husband that he had gone to my husband and said to him that he can help him get me pregnant. So Henry was already pissed, which was maybe why he had a bit more to drink. So while I was now yelling at him to leave the man, he now stormed out of the place, took a taxi and left me there and went home. So by the time, and people are now asking me what happened, they're all looking at me, what happened? So by the time I now stepped out and took a taxi to get home, I was now very angry. So I got home, we're both angry with each other, but it's both not our fault. So we talked it over, I think the next day. This is what this man said to me. This is what this man said to me. But at that point, we didn't even realize how disturbed this man was himself. Shortly after that, he left the job. And I think a short while later, we heard he had taken his own life. So why am I telling you this story? People might come at, like, when you are having recurrent losses or infertility, sometimes it's better to stay away from people that you know that can't talk, or people you know that are already mentally unstable, because they will trigger you. They will do things to you and you will act crazy, and just avoid them. And yeah, people just know that there are mad people out there. So you have to protect your own peace. Yeah, there are really mad people out there. So I'm just telling you this story. And yes, we need to be kind. We need to show empathy. Don't be very quick to minimize or offer solutions. Telling people that are young, they can have another child. They are lucky one baby is still there when they lose one of their baby in pregnancy. Nobody becomes twin pregnant so that they will celebrate having one. Stop it. Okay, that's why sometimes someone will have a miscarriage. You cook soup, you bring fruit, you run around for them, and they still cut you off and stop talking to you because you said something deeply damaging in that period that your mouth was running to. And then some of you come and say, yes, I had a miscarriage too, and I had to go to work the next day, or I handled it better than you're handling it. Some of you doing that have forgotten that your miscarriage was like 5 or 10 years before. And maybe you've healed and somehow you've forgotten how miserable you were when it happened. And now you're imposing whatever you think it is on someone else. Stop it. Sometimes if you don't know what to do, don't even go. And with this stillbirth thing, like when people these days, like there was a lady, she was pregnant when I was back in university. So I used to come and go. When I go to school, I come back, I go and come back. So I had an estimated time that she should have a baby, right? So I'd come back on one holiday. She wasn't pregnant anymore, and she was carrying a baby. So as someone who is friendly with her, I was going to go to her and congratulate her. So I stood up, and someone else saw me and recognized who I was going to. So she pulled me and told me that the baby she's holding is not her own, that she lost her baby at birth. So I was so grateful that this person stopped me, because I would have marched down there, said congratulations, and tears would start flowing. So these days, when people tell me they are pregnant, if we're close, from time to time, I'll ask you, how is it going? How are you doing? But if we're not that close, you must announce that your child is born. Because I don't want to trigger you to start. Do you understand? So there are people, like I've heard somewhere that they're pregnant. I don't call them to ask them, when will your baby be born or has it been born? No. You will announce your pregnancy, then I react, visit, give you a present or whatever. So we have to, there are different ways to do. There is a reason why some people don't announce their pregnancy. And let me tell you another thing. I have a lot of friends. They've been through loss. They've been through years of infertility. They've been through so many things that they don't feel a need to announce their pregnancy, because they don't even believe the pregnancy. And they're scared they will lose it. And they don't want, when they're dealing with that grief, they're also managing other people's expectations. So let me tell you something. If they tell you on the day they do the pregnancy test, congratulate them. If they tell you at 12 weeks, congratulate them. If they wait till 24 weeks, or if they wait till birth to tell you, at any point, don't make it about yourself. Like, is this when you're telling me, or this or that? Just congratulate them. It is not about you. Sometimes someone is crying about the miscarriage, you know. You don't know the 3 before that one that are crying for, that you now know. Because people tend to be secretive. Maybe you've just caught them crying today, so they've now admitted to you that they've lost a pregnancy, but you still don't know about the 3 before you start wanting to shout and give them advice. Please don't do it. So I wanted to put some of these things here, because this is Baby Loss Awareness Week, 9th to 15th October. And 15th of October usually ends with a wave of light. So all around the world at 7 p.m., I think UK time, people are waving lights for hope, for remembrance, for awareness, for advocacy. So if you would like to do that, you can tap in, you can follow them. They're Blau on Instagram. They share a lot of resources that can help deal with loss. And if you're in Doha this week and you've never really talked or dealt with or unpacked or handled this kind of your baby loss, and you want to talk to somebody, you can send me a DM this week if you want to observe Blau with somebody who would just sit there and let you talk. If you want that this week, send me a message. So that is what I wanted to discuss this week. I just wanted to join this remembrance, raise this awareness, join in the advocacy, even in places of work, that we should better support people who are bereaved in hospitals, give them more support. Because the day I lost my third pregnancy, those people had no empathy at all. Doctor said, I can't change your genes, but you can come and try again at your next period. The nurses there were just looking at me like I had leprosy. Nobody even said, how did you come? Did you drive? Can you manage? I sat there for like 10 minutes and walked to my car. Nobody even checked if I was in a fit situation to drive. That third pregnancy was the first one. Like, I didn't name any of my children because the pregnancy losses were early. But this one had reached blueberry on my app. You know, it starts with, I think, poppy seed, mustard, peppercorn, and those kind of things. So blueberry. I entered my car. I didn't even put my Google map. I don't even know how I drove from Sharjah to Dubai that day. Nobody checked on me. Like, even the hospital, they were just waiting to take more money. I don't know. I drove home blind. Like, I got to the house in Dubai. I parked in our parking lot. I called my mom. I don't told my husband. I already called him before I left the hospital. Because for a moment, I wanted to leave the car there and take a taxi home. And then come back to Sharjah and pick it some other time. But I drove it home. And I remember sitting in the garage, calling my mom and saying, I lost blueberry. So, it's hard. It is hard, no matter what stage, no matter what spectrum of the pregnancy loss, and depending on what has happened before. Some people might seem to be handling it better than the others, but it's not your place to decide who is handling something well or not. For some people, their own miscarriage was even missed, which means the baby had stopped growing. Nobody noticed, especially all these countries that are very stingy with scans and all those kind of things. Because I had triplets and twins. So, and because I'd had 3 miscarriages, they were considered high risk. So I used to do scan every 2 weeks, back to back. So I saw the babies a lot. But most countries, 8th week, then you come for 13th week when they check the neural tube. And then the next is 20th week when they do the viability checks, right? So, imagine losing a pregnancy in that space, and then it takes three weeks before someone notices and it has become infected. So you're fighting for your life and going in for an evacuation. These are the issues. And why we do this awareness is so that you don't need to hide. Just find someone that has sense, that will listen to you, hold your hands through this thing. The pain, you don't need to be ashamed. That's the point. You did nothing wrong that requires shame, that you have to keep suffering. That's what I want to tell you today. So I've shared most of what I wanted to share. I want to share something from the Bible. So if you're not religious or if you might be offended, you can drop out of the live now. But the rest, it's the comforting words from my Lord Jesus, to the people who have lost hope, to the downtrodden, to the bereaved. It is found in the book of Matthew chapter 5, the Beatitudes. Is Matthew 5, 3 to 12, but I'm not going to read all of it. I have just chosen 4, which ties into what we're discussing today, which is pregnancy loss and baby loss awareness. So I read the word of the Lord. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. That's the first one. And I have little reflective notes on that. So I have written down that grief is not hidden or shameful. God sees mourning and promises comfort. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Loss may leave us empty, depleted, and spiritually exhausted. God still calls us heirs of his kingdom. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The innocence of babies we've lost and the pure love we carry for them is precious in God's sight. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. For parents seeking answers, justice in care or healing, God promises fulfillment beyond what this word offers. This is the word of the Lord. So today, I just want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to stand in the gap for multiple women around the world, to be both a witness and a testament of healing, of restoration, of being fearless and unashamed. And this is what I want for you, that whatever stage of grief that you're in, that you start to be unashamed about it, start to be fearless, reach for the light. All the burden that you've carried, drop it. Okay? So today, I just want to pray for everyone who is going through one stage of grief or the other today. And then I pray to God, our Father in heaven, in the name of my Lord Jesus, that he will heal you, that you feel the full measure of his comfort, the full measure of his restorative power, that he will change and perfect all that concerns you, that you will testify to the faithfulness of God. Father, I pray for all the families who are hearing this message today, that you bless them indeed, that their joy will come in the morning. Thank you, God, for you are everlasting Father. I hope that you have a good weekend. I thank you for joining. I love you. God bless you.